Okay, testing, testing, testing. One, two, three. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Drift King 0311 here, back at it again with another live stream today. Today we decided to do something very different today. Instead, I decided to make a tier list again. For like, I did it with my friends, of course, and basically they're offline. Well, some are online. They just can't come. But only, just to let you guys know, my live streams will be obviously we're just here for anything really. Basically, it's just a normal live stream we always do, honestly. So, I'm gonna make a tier list today, and I think it might be short, but I don't know. I maybe might have other plans. I could play other different kinds of games. If you guys want me to do another tier list, then I'll be glad to. I mean, you guys will be glad to. We can do a live stream like this. Anyways, so this is regards with season two of Thomas the Tank Engine. And I actually do have some great memories because I've seen Unlucky Tuck's retrospective, of course, and so on. And of course, if you guys like to say hi, you guys can say hi in the chat or someone. Basically I'm just doing a tier list about the episodes. So I'm gonna start the episode with all the original episodes that was aired back then. So let's start with the first episode. First episode is, of course, it's right here: Thomas, Percy, and Nicole. Yeah, I have no memories about that episode, to be honest. Basically, this episode was just about Thomas and Percy fighting over Cole, and then like basically like they're just fighting about who's more better. Like Thomas's color is blue and all. Percy thinks his green caterpillar with red stripes is obviously good, and so on. Basically, they get their karma back because obviously, Thomas ends up getting covered in coal. Percy also gets covered in coal, and then they made up in the end. Basically, it's a good episode, but not my favorite, if you ask me. Like personally, I just don't think it's my favorite at all. It's not my favorite, so let's do it. So Thomas and Percy and Nicole. Where would I put this? I would put it in A tier. It's good, but yeah, it's just that the way they describe the episode, it's just not my thing. It's just not my thing. Like I like the dynamic between Thomas and Percy out of all characters. That was good. That was very very good actually. That was very good. Thomas, Percy, and Nicole. It's good, but it's not like my favorite of the whole franchise. If you ask me, basically. So please don't kill me in the comments if you guys are gonna say about my own opinion. Please don't. Okay. Second episode we have cows. Where's cows? Oh, there it is. Cows, or a cow on the line in the retitled. Actually, I just realized Thomas and Percy and Nicole was retitled as Double Trouble, and I mean that makes sense. But personally, I don't like the U.S. title thing. To be honest, I prefer the U.K. ones. If you ask me, this is my personal opinion. Okay, cows. Basically, it's just about Edward's character. I mean, Gordon Henry teased Edward after some cows break part of his train away, but in the end, Edward has the last laugh. I mean, obviously he does. He basically like Gordon and Henry got scared of a cow. They didn't want to run over it, and yada yada yada. And of course, they get their karma back. Obviously, I mean, honestly, this episode has a good moral in the end. Basically, don't if you talk too much, karma will bite you. Like that's the moral of the episode, really basically. So cows, I'm gonna go with S tier. It's the most memorable episode, to be honest. Well, most of the memorable episodes, if you ask me. My honest opinion about it is just that I like it. It's the most memorable episode. It even tells about Edward's story, like saying Edward's getting old, his bearings are worn, and he clanked as he puffed along the line. He was taking cars to the cattle to the market, and yada yada yada. Basically, I do like Ringo Starr's narration in season two. I mean, we all actually like Ringo Starr's narration. He sounded really good. He sounded more energized as he was. He sounded so good. Yeah. Anyways, let's see. We have Birdie's chase. Oh yeah, I remember Birdie's chase. Edward is impatient when Thomas does not show up with his cattle trucks, unaware that Birdie is taking his passengers, leading him to a chase. So basically, Edward's impatient because Thomas hasn't arrived, but little did he know that Thomas cannot come in because his fireman got ill, and because of that, he can't move. Obviously, he's a train. He needs someone to drive a train. So basically, Edward's impatient, and then Birdie, of course, tells him that he has Thomas' passengers, but Edward didn't hear him, and this is where it became a high speed chase, I would say. Not really a high speed chase though, where like a helicopter. So no, not really. It was more like just a bus trying to outrun a train. It was like Thomas and Birdie's race, but way different though. It wasn't a game to Birdie in this episode. It was more like this was against time because he needs to get the passengers to Edward before he reaches the next station, and he does. And he, of course, he apologized. Edward apologized to Birdie about about him leaving behind him, and of course Birdie said it was his fault, that this is something that happened, and so on. And yeah, I mean, the episode was good and all. I like the episode, but it's not like one of the most memorable episodes. So Birdie's Chase, I will give it. You know what? I'll go with Thomas and Percy and Nicole. It's an A tier. It's a memorable episode, to be honest. I did like how Birdie's theme is there in season two. Actually, like I like Birdie's theme in season two. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. I like the themes from both Edward and Birdie throughout the whole franchise. If you ask me. Okay, so of course we got another favorite. Another memorable episode. I would say. Oh, hello there, hello, Alan. Anyways, sorry. So another episode. We have Save from Scrap. Oh, that's a memorable episode. There's no question about it. This is where we get a new character, Trevor, the traction engine. Basically, he's about to get scrapped, and the vicar and Edward save him from being scrapped, and he lives in the vicar's orchard, and he will still live there to this day. Basically, yeah. Okay, so a memorable episode. Personally, I love this episode, even as a kid. So, Save from Scrap, S tier. Obviously, S tier. You can't go wrong with this episode. This episode's very, very good. It shows how this is not a fairy tale. This is not a fairy tale that all things can stay the same. It shows that engines one day will end up getting scrapped. And that's true. I mean, that's reality. That is reality. Whenever something happens in life, sometimes you have to learn from that mistake and then try to assume it. I mean, basically, it's like you're learning about. It's like you're teaching a kid about death. I know it sounds wrong, yes, and I mean you have to learn this because it's gonna happen to you. We're all gonna do it, Basically, it's not easy though. It's not easy. Some shows actually do have that stuff. Basically, so obviously, Safe from Scrap, S tier. It's honestly one of the most memorable episodes of the whole series. I'm not even kidding. It's actually one if not like the most memorable episode throughout the whole series of Thomas of season two, especially. Season two was probably the way we all. I think season two was where we all realized that Thomas is not a just a fantasy kind of way. No, this was more of a reality of what's going to happen, in the future. Basically, okay, next episode. We got Old Iron. Oh yes. Oh yes, yes. My favorite Edward episode. Yes. I think it's one of my favorite episodes too. Everyone can even agree that Old Iron is my favorite. So yeah. Old Iron, basically. S tier. Old Iron is about how James becomes a runaway because of their two boys. And honestly, as a kid, I didn't understand how James ran away in the first place until I read their books. When I read the books, I realized that it was two boys that went inside his cab and messed up with his controls that made him go fast. In other words, that made him go forward, and because of that, he becomes a runaway. He has no driver. His driver's ill, and yeah, and Edward saves him, and boom. And of course, basically James learns his lesson, and he thanks Edward for that. Honestly, that was a good episode, if you ask me. It was a very good episode. Basically, James was just fed up of Edward being slow, and then of course the next day he comes to his rescue. And basically, yeah, that's all the episode. Okay, let's see. Okay, okay, we got Old Iron. Now we have Thomas and Trevor. Oh, yeah, that was like the. Oh yeah, that was based not. That was not. Excuse me. That was not based on the Railway series books. Actually, Thomas and Trevor was not a. It was not a Railway series book. Actually, I heard from some people. They say this was the writer's idea. Basically, this wasn't like a Andrew Brenner kind of stuff. People say that was actually Andrew Brenner, but Andrew Brenner did not come until season two. Actually, or I don't even know. Like, if anyone knows when Andrew Brenner came to the series, let me know. Actually, let me know in the comments. Actually, uh, anyways, so Thomas and Trevor. Yeah, it was where like Thomas and Trevor met, and of course Thomas did not know about what a tractor is or a traction engine. I would say he doesn't know about it, and of course Trevor shows him what he is, and then of course basically they just become friends. Honestly, I have to go with. I have to honestly have to go with. You know what? Since I'm nice, I guess I have to go with S tier. Honestly, Thomas and Trevor is actually kind of a memorable episode to be honest. Because as a kid, I used to watch like the best of Thomas DVDs, and this episode was one of them actually. Yeah, it was basically on this episode, and honestly, I love this episode. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie. It's actually a good. It actually shows how people are different. Like a train and a traction engine being friends. It's like Thomas and Trevor, or Thomas and Terrence. It was like those two. Thomas and Terrence, and it was like that. Thomas be friends with a tractor that saved him. Thomas and Trevor is different though because honestly, it just shows Thomas being confused of what he is, and he shows him what he is, and of course, he be friends with him, and then that's it. Honestly, it was a good episode. Not gonna lie, good episode. Good episode that shows about friendship. That's actually kind of cool. But it's not like anything really about showing about friendships. To be honest, it's sometimes they don't stay they don't stay the way others people say really, and that's reality. I'm just saying. I might be a Debbie Downer, but I'm just telling the truth. I am just speaking facts. If you don't believe me, just don't believe me then. Okay, another episode. We got Percy and the Signal. Oh yeah, Percy and the Signal. When Percy tricks all the big grown engines like James and Gordon, and of course, he tells Percy. Of course, Percy tells James to stay in the shed, and the Fat Controller was going to see him. But little did he know that the Fat Controller was away for a while, and of course, James, of course, got mad. And when the Fat Controller came back, he was cross with both James and Percy for causing trouble. And of course, this also allows that Percy honestly learns his lesson in the end, right? Well, not exactly. Basically, Gordon and James tease him about the signals, about backing signals. And honestly, as a kid, I did not know what signals are at the time. I did not know. And honestly, this was a Thomas show. This was a steam engine, a like going back to like the 1920s or so on. And you don't know what signal is. Back then, no, we didn't have signals like we have today. Back then, they used to use a little pole thing, and then when the arm goes up and it goes down, like when it goes up, it means stop. When it goes down, it means go. I did not know about that when I was a kid. I basically did not know. And of course, when I saw the backing signals, I'm like, what the heck? Did James and Gordon literally knew that he was going to do it? And honestly, they didn't know. They did actually find out eventually. And Percy, of course, he gets mad because of them playing joke on him. And honestly, personally, there was no moral in this episode. The moral was just like, don't, like, I don't even know what the moral of this episode, honestly. The moral of the episode was just basically just do not just run your mouth up, and that's it. And also don't believe in people or engines, I should say. Don't believe in engines or what people say. Sometimes they could be true and others cannot be true. Yeah. So Percy and the Signal. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It had to be B tier. It's good, but it just didn't quite make sense to me. Even rewatching it. I mean, I get Percy's character arc right there. Yes, he's a cheeky. He's like Thomas, basically. He's just a saddle tank engine that likes to play around with the big engines. I mean, it was in the Railway Series books actually. When I read the Railway Series books, it was basically like that. There's no issue at all. Like no issue at all. Basically, it's just that. Okay, so next we have another favorite episode of I have. Duck takes charge. Basically the character where we get new engines. We get a new engine called Duck, the penny or tank engine. And of course Doug Doug of course takes charge, and Percy is being ordered again in the whole issue personally. Anyways, okay, so basically this episode was just like I also want to mention about one thing about this episode. This was the episode where like George Carlin, like who was the narrator in the US, he actually redubbed most of the US series of Thomas, and he actually did something really funny. I'm not gonna lie, it's very very funny. I'm not gonna lie. Like the way he goes, like quack, 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 whee, smoke billow everywhere. I kind of liked that as a kid. I laughed so much about this episode. But I prefer Ringo Starr's one because like he goes quack 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 quack, quack. Like George Carlin did the quack a bit. Nah, like he just kind of did it okay, but it wasn't that funny as Ringo did. He goes like quack 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 quack, quack whoosh, and then like that. Like I just love that. I personally like the George Carlin one, but honestly, I have to go with Ringo Starr because I think Ringo Starr kind of did it way better than George Carlin. To be honest, I didn't understand why they kept that. I wish they would have done it way better with George Carlin, but that was still funny. And of course, they of course align arrangement, and of course they have, and also there was also a goof that a lot of people have talked to me about like this where like when Percy and Duck were at the turntable and like we hear someone snoring in the background. I actually did rewatch this episode, and basically, yeah, that was actually kind of true. There was someone actually snoring, and I'm like, wait, what was that? I thought it was like train noises or train chuffs I just heard as a kid. And of course, like Duck and Percy, of course, they take charge, and of course, the big engines argue. Fat Controller gets in. He he basically tells Duck and Percy about what they're doing, and of course, this is where the whole situation between ordering the little engines around. This is where it comes to a stop. Actually, this is where it comes to a stop. Like the Fat Controller literally talked to the big engines, like saying, "This is my railway. I give the orders. You don't." And yeah, and that's how the episode ends. And then Duck, of course, and of course the big engines don't bother Duck anymore after that, after the whole incident. And yeah, I kind of like Duck actually. Not gonna lie, as a kid, I loved Duck so much of the episode. Not even gonna lie. So, Duck takes charge. S tier, S tier, S tier. It's literally a good episode. I am not kidding. It is one of the best episodes of the whole series, basically. Am I right or am I wrong, gentlemen? Am I right or am I wrong? Come on. I can tell no one's even watching my video. I don't care. I don't care who's watching my videos. I just don't care who's watching my videos. I'm just a normal guy that likes to do tier lists and so on. Basically. Okay. So, what next? We got Percy and Harold. Percy and Harold, or Percy proves a point. Oh my god, I do not like how they retitled this episode. To be honest, oh my god, why did they do this? Oh god. Well, we never know. Percy and Harold. Well, that's a good episode. It begins with Percy and Thomas at the harbor, like, because Percy was transferred to the harbor yard in his own branch line. Like, Percy gets his own branch line in the series actually, and of course he meets a helicopter by the name of Harold, and of course he thinks railways are slow and out of date, and of course Percy proves that wrong, and of course he asks Toby, and of course like he decides to race him one day with Percy and Harold, and with a good theme actually of the race. It was like Thomas and Bertie, but way different. This was a helicopter. Basically, Percy and Harold reminded me of Thomas and Bertie. Basically, a train versus a bus, and a train versus a helicopter. I mean, yeah, because honestly, nowadays, like, because back then, new technology was arriving, new transportation, and so on. They want to be big, they want to be buff, they want to be those new thingies that can travel the world without issue. Yeah, I mean, personally, I just don't think of it, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. So, Percy and Harold. It's honestly one of the most memorable episode, but I'm not gonna lie though, I have to go with S tier actually. Percy and Harold is actually kind of cool. I love the dynamic between those two. I loved it. Basically, Percy wins the race, and of course, I like how like the thing of the driver like singing to Percy about like, say Harold the helicopter to our Percy, you are slow. Your railway is out of date and not much used to it all. Your Percy and the stone trucks with a running up his that, and we beat the helicopter on our own branch line. I love that. I actually loved that as a kid. I'm not gonna lie. That singing was way better. I wish they would have done it with Thomas and Bertie though. Like if Thomas's driver would have gone up and saw Bertie, he probably would have like sing a song or something. I mean, that would have been better with that episode. But Percy and Harold was kind of good. I like how they did. I also like the camera shots. I kind of never noticed that they moved the camera so much to the closest to the engines. And I like that of season two actually. That's where the camera starts moving around, like in Old Iron, with like James or like Edward tries to save James. Like it was like moving around and such, you know. I mean, I saw the season two retrospective. I'm not gonna lie, it was actually kind of cool. It was very, very cool. Okay, we have next episode. We have another favorite episode, The Runaway. Yes, I love this episode. Okay, little plot. Thomas is ill, and of course, Doug takes over his branch line, and of course, Thomas comes back, and of course, he has one problem. His brakes, his hand brakes, is the issue. His hand brakes look like that they were turned on, but in reality, they aren't. So basically, this is what happened. Thomas and his driver often run the platform, and it's embarrassing, of course. But of course, the driver and fireman learn to control it, and this never issue ever happens again. But one day, his driver was taken ill, which is basically kind of like the same as Old Iron. Actually, they used some of the stock footage of Old Iron, if you ask me. And of course, and a relief man came over to take over Thomas, but then of course he forgot about Thomas's handbrakes, and of course the runaway kicks in. And honestly, can we appreciate how like the runaway theme, like am I the only one that's gonna notice this? Like the runaway, like how the runaway theme is played, like like the runaway theme from you know like how like they actually like did so good with it. I'm not gonna lie, they actually had some fun with making these themes. Honestly, like the runaway themes were honestly my favorite in the whole series. If you ask me, basically. I mean, I think Amtrak guy 365 actually made a video about like the runaway of Thomas and such. I will give you the link to you guys if you guys want to see the whole video. I'm telling you, this video is actually kind of cool. I'm not joking. Basically, this dude is actually very a Thomas fan. Actually, if you ask me, basically in the Runaways, basically. Basically, I just like the Runaway thing. Basically, like when Thomas his handbrakes, his basically in the episode his handbrake starts loosing, and of course like this is where they actually did really really good. Am I the only one that likes to hear this theme? Like I'm not even kidding, dude. I am not even kidding. I'm gonna play a clip actually. I don't care. I'm gonna play a clip. I'm gonna play a clip actually. I'm gonna play a clip actually for. I'm gonna play a little clip for a second, and then you guys can tell me which theme was actually way better. I'm not gonna lie. And of course, this is from Amtrak guy, so credit him. Credit him. I'm gonna play this clip now. Not gonna lie, that is actually not gonna lie, that theme is so good. I'm not kidding. Like it just becomes like like the danger theme starts kicking in. Like this is just amazing that they did. Not gonna lie. Give credit to Michael O'Donnell and Junior Campbell. They literally did good with the series. Bravo. That's all I gotta say. Bravo. Okay, so of course Thomas becomes a runaway, and of course Harold is sent to help him, and of course, the inspector arrives, and Thomas starts slowing down because he's losing a lot of steam. Obviously, he's a steam engine. He's losing so much steam that he slowed down. He's slowing down, and that's good. And of course, the station arrives. The inspector judges his moment, and he jumps on board of the train and applies the brakes to stop Thomas. Basically, it was like Unstoppable from the movie Unstoppable. It was basically like that, but way different though. It was way different. And of course, Thomas stops, and basically that's it. Basically, that was the whole episode. Basically, it was a runaway. But really, though, it was very cool and all. But honestly, I have to give the runaway ooh, S tier. I'm sorry. I just love this episode so much. Just I love it. I just think I just love this episode. I love this episode, honestly. It was a runaway. It was a runaway train, honestly. Okay, we have another one. We have another episode. Okay, so this is a lot of that people actually don't like this episode because it's basically like about Percy saving Thomas's passengers, even though that never actually happened until like the third series when they did. But yeah, basically, yeah. In this episode, Percy takes a plunge. It's basically how like Percy tells the other engines that he saved Thomas's passengers in one stormy day, and yet like there was no episode about that. Even as a kid, I always wondered about that. I wondered about that scene that he said. Like he said that he couldn't see where he was going and he struggled on, and I'm like, wait a minute, was this another episode? Did I miss another episode and so on? When I had the original Best of Percy of 2006 or so, I don't know when that DVD was made, but I had that. And when I first watched it, I had the George Carlin dubs, right? But for some reason, in Percy Takes the Plunge, they have Ringo's narration in there, and I'm like, wait, what? Why did we what happened with George Carlin's dub? I think, and of course, this is something that Unlucky Tug said in one of his videos. He said that like, and I actually do have that DVD to this day. I still have it. And I watched it again and again, and I realized this was Ringo Starr's narration. And I'm like, what? How did they did this error so bad? How? And of course, this is the episode where like Percy thinks that water is Walter is nothing with engine with the determination. Walter is nothing with engine with determination. Percy, basically, of course, Percy, of course, tries to tell the other people, the other engines, about, and of course, he visits Thomas, and Thomas expects a danger sign saying that you cannot go over because you'll fall down. And basically, of course, Percy says, "I can't see a mine." And then, of course, he did not know that the foundations of the quay had sunk. The rails now slipped downward into the sea. Why am I copying the narrations? But you get the joke. So basically, of course, he asked the truck one day if he could push him off the board. And of course, this worked good, but it went a bit too far though. The trucks did in fact push him, and he did foul, and he did plunge into the ocean, like right there. Basically, he gets plunged, and of course, the Fat Controller arrives, and of course, he tells him that we're not going to rescue him until high tide, and then that's it. And of course, the cranes pick up Percy, and of course, he got rescued. He got sent to the works with Henry's train, and of course, Henry teases him about the water, and of course, Percy just learns a lesson that sometimes engines have weaknesses, and we all do. We all have weaknesses sometimes. So basically, Percy takes the plunge. A tier. It's not my favorite episode, but I did have some good funny moments with that episode. If you ask me. But yeah, it just shows how Percy is basically like, oh, water doesn't show me determination. He learns it experience. Okay, water's not a determination. Basically, I'm gonna lie, that's actually kind of cruel. If you ask me, like it's just cruel. If you ask me. But it shows that everyone has weaknesses. It just shows that. That's the moral of this episode. Anyone that says they're not afraid of anything, that's not true. They can be afraid of one thing. That's how the episode is. Okay, we have another favorite episode, actually, my personal opinion. Pop goes to Diesel. Basically, Duck is, of course, working with the big engines after the Duck takes charge episode, basically. And, of course, a new Diesel arrives. And, of course, Duck shows him. And, of course, his first day was very bad. He, he of course, broke some trucks. He broke the brakes of the trucks and the gear jammed. And because of that, Doug laughed and he saw that and he's like saying, "Don't you want this lot?" He said to Duck. "No, thank you," said Duck. "Am I taking this trouble? Why didn't you tell me? You never asked," said Duck. You were saying a rubber thing. And honestly, I did not know about this episode as a kid when we were watching about like revolution. I did not know what is revolution at the time until recently when I started growing up I realized what revolution is. Like, instant revolution and so on until I learned history and such. Basically it's just basically it's just that. It's just that, basically it's just that episode to be honest, basically. So, uh basically, yeah, Diesel humiliates himself, and of course, there's the song that I actually kind of like even as a kid, like the Pop Goes to Diesel, and that's the song about it, really. You know, I gotta kind of say that. Hello,
Hello there. How
hey,
you doing?
doing good, doing good, doing good. We're just making a tier
I'm
list.
glad that you liked those pictures I took earlier today on where I went
Oh yeah,
to.
yeah, you want to come again? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was the best.
I saw the picture you sent me. Okay. Anyways, Pop Goes Diesel. Basically, I remember this as a kid, and I like the song that the Chucks made fun of Diesel. Actually, not gonna lie though, Ringo actually did really good with it. George Carlin also did good with it, but I just prefer Ringo Starr's singing because like at least he did have some good stuff in it. So Pop Goes to Diesel. It's not my favorite episode to be honest, but I'll give it a B tier. It's like okay and all because it introduces a new character and such, and that's good. It's my favorite, but it's not like my favorite favorite. You know, it's not my favorite. Basically, it's just not my favorite. Anyways, we have Dirty Work, or in other words, Diesel's Devious Deeds in the US. Oh my god, I don't like the US. They had to change the title so much. Why did they have to change the title so much? These episodes were so good. Okay, Dirty Work. Basically, Diesel gets revenge on Duck because of humiliating him. And of course, basically he tells lies to the trucks, and of course the engines, Gordon, Henry, and James notices that the trucks are saying mean stuff to him, and of course basically the engines turn their anger towards Duck, which he didn't do anything. Basically, of course, this causes a huge problem to them, and of course, the Fat Controller steps in, he gets involved, and yada yada yada. You know probably the story about how the episode ends. Basically, the Fat Controller tells Diesel that Diesel was saying lots of stuff to him, even though it was actually Diesel saying this. And the Fat Controller even told him that you heard what Duck said. And he's like, I can't understand it, sir. To think of all engines. Duck has all of them. But no, nothing. And of course, like, basically he was just lying. Basically. Basically he just lied. Lie right there. And of course, like Duck gets sent to Edward Station for a while until things clear up. And of course, it let Diesel win the whole thing. Basically, the villain wins in this episode. Basically, the villain got away with everything, just like that, like that. There is another episode that actually does tell about Diesel in the meanwhile, but Dirty Work actually is kind of, not gonna lie though, there is something good from this episode. So basically, I have to go with A tier actually. Not gonna lie, it's a good episode or no, but basically it's just that when you're talking about Diesel and Duck, no one wins. That's the thing. No one wins. Duck doesn't win. Diesel doesn't win. So basically, in this episode, Diesel wins the whole thing. Duck wins in Pop Goes to Diesel, obviously, but in Dirty Works, it's Diesel who wins out of all characters. Kind of a cool dynamic, if you ask me. Well done, Wilbert. Well done. Well done. Anyways, we have another episode coming up, a close shave. Basically, this is the whole after Diesel telling lies to Duck. He gets sent to Edward Station. Of course, Duck complains that the Fat Controller and the other engines think he's a horrid or something. And of course, Edward just says that no, 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 you're not horrid, and yada yada yada. One day, of course, he helps out Edward with the station, and of course, he helps Edward up the hill. And of course, after he helps him, he goes down the hill and just goes back to the station, and of course, he hears a guard's whistle, and little did he know that behind him, the trucks that Edward was pulling, broke away and ran down the hill, and they were going faster and faster and heading towards Duck. Basically, the runaway thing kicks in. Obviously, the runaway thing did really, really good, basically. So, of course, the trucks catch up to Duck. They got to him, and of course, Duck doesn't know what he's doing, basically. And of course, there's more trouble than that. Basically, James in the passenger side was traveling with passenger coaches, is pulling out of the station, and basically he's front of the line. Basically he's in the line. He's in the same track as Duck as he approaching him really really fast. He has no way of stopping in time. This is a horrific scene we're talking about. Basically, this is a life and death decision. Basically, Duck is about to crash the James, and he's either going to hurt someone or kill them. Basically, think about it. He's going to hurt someone if he doesn't stop in time or if something happens. But thankfully, that doesn't happen. Instead of colliding with James, he doesn't collide with him. The signalman notices and switches the points to him, and he goes into a siding. And of course, however, it ends up in a barber shop that was sitting by the tracks. Basically, of course, the barber was just shaving a customer, and of course, the crash just. I don't even have to tell how deadly the crash was. The crash was very deadly. I could just say the building structure come down, the wall just just parts of the building collapse and so on. It didn't destroy the whole building, but it destroyed most of the front from the side, if I'm correct, basically. So yeah, of course, after the trucks, of course, the duck, of course, tells him that he was sorry about what happened, and of course, the barber, of course, decided to do something funny, and of course, add whipped cream, not whipped cream, like shave cream all over Duck's face. Yeah, I don't know why. Even as a kid, I just thought this seems kind of funny. And of course, like Thomas arrives with the Fat Controller, they help out clear the mess, and basically, of course, Fat Controller tells the barber that this engine basically prevented a serious accident, and that's actually true. He actually did prevent a serious accident. The accident could have been way worse, if you ask me. It could have been worse. The crash could have been worse, but thankfully it wasn't. And of course, like basically, of course, he gets rescued. The package store tells him that you can go home after you get repaired and washed. And he's like saying, but like the engines don't like me, sir. They think they like Diesel more. And of course, the Fat Controller doesn't believe Diesel and he sent him packing. So basically, Diesel just leaves. And the engines like cheer for Duck after he comes back. And yeah, it was basically a happy ending episode, honestly. So yeah, honestly, this episode was okay and all. So it was S tier. It was a S tier. You agree? You agree? It's actually S tier. Close shave is
Yeah.
basically an S tier. S tier. Most memorable episode,
Oh yeah. Probably an episode that I probably know from Thomas.
obviously. Yep. Okay, so next episode we have another one. Better late than never. Okay, this is where Unlucky Tuck in his season 2 retrospective would say that Better Late Than Never was the worst. And personally, I don't think it is. Better Late Than Never just shows about like the train, about the viaduct being repaired because obviously it needed to be repaired because it needed to have foundation and such. So he didn't want to close the railway, and of course the main line's still open, but the engines have to be very careful crossing the viaduct because and of course with that delay it made Thomas late, obviously. And of course Thomas complains to Henry one day that like, why do I keep peeing my passengers? Well, Henry and James dawdle about all day on viaducts. And basically, Henry just like, tells him, like, don't blame me, he said. If we hurried across the viaduct, we might collapse. And then you have no passengers at all. What would you do then? Run my train for one thing, said Thomas. And just, yeah, basically. I don't even know how Thomas actually would think about it. Like, no passengers at all? Wow. He doesn't even care if Henry even dies or so. That's just kind of I don't know. That's like something else. Like, people say that's actually a dark joke, but personally, I don't think it is. I don't think it's a dark joke. If you ask me, it's just kind of funny, very funny. Okay, so of course, Bertie is impatient, of course, and because Thomas is late, Bertie cannot get his passengers, and of course, Bertie teases Thomas, like saying that, like he's like saying, "I can beat you in another race again," and of course, Thomas just gets out his anger. I honestly just says lots of stuff to Birdie, obviously, and loses his anger. And of course, the next day he decides to get early. That's why, like, he got up early. He went up. He basically just wanted to get there on time. And of course, Birdie, of course, has engine problems and stops at a level crossing. And Thomas arrives to see what happened. And of course, Birdie tells him that, can you take my passengers home? They'll never get out. They'll never get home eventually. And he's like saying, of course. And of course, Thomas helps Birdie's passengers, and that was it. And of course, they meet up their whole problem, and they always say that being late is not always a good thing. And Better Late Than Never, people say that was a weak episode, but to be honest, I don't think it is. Better Late Than Never has to be A tier. A tier. No, no, no question. No question. No questions. The moral is that sometimes being late sometimes can be good, rather if it's late or not. Like if you're having a job, like for example, let's think about reality stuff right now. Like if I have a job, which I do, and I'm running late, like my first time running late. Usually I always get there early and so, and Like I probably might be worried about me getting in trouble. I'm probably gonna get fired or something. But no, no. They just tell like my managers, like my workers are like asking me like, "Did you run late?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did run late." He's like, "Oh, that's fine. Better late than never then." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And yeah, obviously this episode has a good moral. Sometimes being late is always a good thing. Basically, that's it. And it's actually kind of a good episode, but to be honest, Unlucky Tug, of course, says, "Oh, it's a weak episode." Not really, dude. Not really. People have different opinions. That's it. I just like this episode. It's a decent episode. It's another dynamic of Birdie and Thomas. That's a good thing. That's one thing. One thing. One thing good in this episode. Okay. Now we have another memorable episode. Break Van. In other words, Break Van is obviously Donald and Douglas. This is where the Scottish twin engines arrive. And of course, they were sent to the main line. Fakachoda only ordered one engine. He didn't order two engines. And of course, they gave him numbers Donald 9, Douglas 10, and so on. Originally, they were also going to do another episode called The Missing Coach. But Brett Allcroft and David Maiden at the time said they didn't want that. They didn't want this idea. They thought that this idea was just doesn't make sense to kids. And honestly, I can see why they never did it. I can see why. So of course Donald and Douglas arrive, and of course there's a new brake van, a snorty brake van, and of course I did like George Carlin's narration of how he does the Scottish voice. But I think Ringo was the one that did very good in this episode, to be honest. I also like that scene where Donald or like Donald, I think yeah, Donald like pushes the brake van and he's like saying, "Spike Dougie, would you take that?" "Oh, oh!" cried the van. "There's more coming. Should you misbehave?" Obviously, and honestly, I kind of laughed at that scene when I was a kid. I'm like, damn, he just pushed him right there. It's like giving him it's like as a kid, I thought he just punched him like like how people punch people nowadays with fists. He basically just punched him like that, like that. And of course, Donald had an accident, of course, because he was running backwards, and of course, he hit a signal box out of all things. And of course, the fat controller is upset about it. And of course, he says that he wanted to send Douglas back and keep Donald. But of course, after this happened bad. So of course of that, because that upset his arrangements, and now James has to help out with the goods work, and then Willie gets his tender mended. And of course, James is fed up with this. Of course, Douglas even told the other engines about James's recent accident, which is dirty objects, obviously. Basically about him crashing into the tar wagons, and of course James like tells him to shut up, it's not funny. And of course Douglas just starts teasing him over and over, like saying, "Well, well, well, surely James, it wasn't you. You didn't say." And then like I just like that thing. And of course the brake van James was pulling, obviously he started playing tricks with the trucks. And of course the trucks are, pulling James backwards and so on. And of course, James realized that he can't make it up the hill. And of course, he asked Douglas, who was nearby the station, to help him. And of course, um, this is where like things started going bad to worse, because as they're pushing the train, this is where like the theme kicks in. People say that this theme is honestly like one of the most underrated themes of the whole series. But personally, I just think this theme is honestly like what's it called? Like the theme is good with no narration and so on. Like if you hear the theme of the narration, sometimes like depending on who you're watching, depending on what version you're watching, because there's different types of versions about it. To be honest, like there's basically there is like basically it's just like it depends on what version you're watching, whether it be the UK version or or anything really. It's up to you really. Like I just think it's just stupid if you ask me. Basically, I mean, like I also like the theme of this episode. I'm gonna play a little clip about it just to not get copyrighted. I'm just gonna play a little clip, and I think I would like to give credit to Oliver WGRW because he's the one that actually made this instrumental version. If you guys want to see your video real good, and leave a comment below, I'll put a link in the description. Link in the description. I did the whole video. Anyways, so let's just watch this instrumental. Actually, I think I have it right here. Where like they start pushing the train and such. This is actually kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, that intro.
Basically, the theme
Oh yeah, that
is
theme.
like saying, "Go steady, the van's breaking," and then the van wasn't breaking. Can we give credit to them? Like literally, that theme is so good. I'm not even kidding. This theme was so good. Not gonna lie. Like it showed like how it shows how dire the situation is. Like it was started making progress, but then the progress started going up too much, and Douglas ends up breaking the brake van in half. Basically, I'm not gonna lie, this might sound a bit weird, but I'm gonna say this, and I hope I don't get canceled for this. Basically, okay, I'm gonna say this, and Alan, don't take this serious. What I'm gonna say, but literally, Douglas killed someone. That's what I'm gonna say. He murdered the brake van right there in front of him, and bro, and also that's also a goof that people actually say. Why was Douglas smiling in that scene? I mean, you did notice that, right? That his face was a smile too
Yeah,
much.
that.
People
But that smile, he knows exactly what he did.
Yeah, exactly. He knows exactly what he did, but of course, like basically, I mean, I wish they would have given him a shocked face or something, like to see what he was doing. And yeah, basically, Edward came up to clean up the mess, and of course, the Fat Controller is upset and doesn't know what to do with Douglas and Donald nowadays. He doesn't know what to do with them now. So yeah, fun, decent episode. Brakeman shows us characters of Donald and Douglas. I'll give it an S tier. It's a memorable episode. Memorable episode, honestly, really good. We have another episode that's also my favorite, the Deputation. Basically, winter is coming around. Wintertime is so basically wintertime is here, and oh hello Rafen. Basically this episode was like how should I say this? The episode was starts up with Christmas or winter, I should say. Winter time. Donald and Douglas are helped Henry one day when he was buried alive in the snow, and of course the Fat Controller is still upset about the whole brake van incident, and because of that, he's thinking that he's gonna send Donald and Douglas away, and of course the engines they don't want that to happen. They don't want it to happen because they realize that Donald and Douglas's accident is honestly just didn't make sense. Why would they why would the Fat Controller send two engines that saved an engine from being buried in the snow? Basically, it just didn't make sense. And of course, the Fat Controller is thinking about getting rid of them. And of course, Percy asked Edward, who is the mentor of the whole series. And of course, he asked them about what do we need to do to help Donald and Douglas. And of course, he said, "What you need," said Edward, "is a deputation." And of course, Percy, of course, that clueless, and I think he was very clueless in this series. Basically, it's like saying, "We Edward said we need a devastation, a demonstration." Of course, said Gordon. But the question is, what's a desperation? Said Henry. It's where engines tell the Fat Controller about an issue. Did you mean tell the Fat Controller? Said Doug. There was a long pause. Yeah, I like the long pause, like how like everyone's thinking about what to say, because basically they don't know what that word is. They don't know what deputation is. They just don't know what it is. They don't know what it is, and of course, Gordon, of course, tries to tell that. Well, Percy, you tell the Fat Controller, and basically Percy doesn't like that. He's like scared.
What's up, guys?
Oh, hey, real fan. How's it
Hey,
been?
Kieran.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
Long
when was
while,
the last
yeah.
time I talked to you?
Last
I
time
don't
we
know.
talked to him was like a while back.
I
Oh,
think it was months ago.
actually, yeah, it was months ago. Yeah,
I
it's been a
guess
while.
Yeah,
so.
I think roughly maybe 5 or 6 months.
Well, welcome to the stream. Then, we're just
Yeah.
doing a tier list of the series of the second series of Thomas and Friends. Actually,
Alrighty, no worries.
that's fine. Okay, so the deputation episode, like basically, like the Fat Controller tells Percy, and of course, Percy is scared of telling the Fat Controller about what's happening, and of course, like he stutters a lot. I like how George Carlin also stutters a lot. And also Ringo also too, like saying, yes sir, please sir, just it's Donald and Douglas. But you're afraid we don't want you to take them away. And the packager's like, "Thank you, Percy. That will do." And of course, he gathers all the engines, and then of course tells them that that Donald and Douglas should have new coats of paint. They should get new name tags so they don't misplace another. And basically, the Fat Controller was going to talk about what else they was doing, but then of course, like the engine started whistling and cheering. Basically, Donald and Douglas were going to stay, and that was actually a good
Yeah.
episode. I'm not gonna lie. It's one of the most underrated episodes of them all.
Yeah.
I want to give this an S tier, actually. S
Yeah.
tier.
I have to agree.
This episode is really cool. It shows
Yeah.
about the aftermath of Breakman, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's good. It's good. It's good. Anyways, we have another episode. Oh, this is an episode that a lot of people don't even like, but I think it's so underrated. It's called Thomas Comes to Breakfast. Basically, one day Thomas pulls his branch line. His driver tells him that you don't need me. You can manage without me, basically. And of course, he tells that to Percy and Toby, and of course they say, "Don't be daft," or "I'll never go out with my driver. I'll be frightened." And of course, like Thomas, like says, like, "Nah, I'm fine." And of course, this didn't. Also, as a kid, when I was a kid, I did not know like how Thomas moved by himself. But this is where like I started to realize what was happening. So basically, a fire letter came. Fire letter came to shovel coal on Thomas's fire, and of course he woke up and obviously he sees Toby and Percy and Toby sleeping, and of course he decides that he can drive himself basically so he can leash them and then wake them up, and then that was it. But basically that did not work because after Thomas was being very clever, he didn't realize that the reason why was because a careless cleaner meddled with his controls and caused him to go fat and caused him to go forward basically. And of course, he can't do anything without a driver because obviously he's an engine. He can't do anything without anyone driving him. And basically, he didn't know what to do. He tried to stop. He tried everything, and he couldn't stop. And of course, he ends up crashing in the station master's house. And of course, this is where people say it's a dumb episode. To be honest, people say that was a dumb episode. And honestly, it just shows one thing: no one can like trains cannot drive by themselves. That's it.
Yeah. I
They
I
cannot
totally
drive by
agree.
themselves. They
But the
can't
thing
drive.
I'm laughing at, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
um, but the funny part about it, I just feel like, I guess the wind is taking Thomas to whatever he goes.
As a kid, I thought so too.
Yeah.
Oh
Like
God.
the wind,
I
like
like. I thought the wind was taking Thomas too. I thought so when I was a kid.
yeah, the wind is like blowing him away, and then boom, he crashes.
They crashed into the station master's house. So basically, like the station master and the family were obviously shocked and scared of Thomas, and of course, this is where the wife of the station master is like saying to Thomas, basically, "You miserable engine, just look what you've done to our breakfast. Now I have to cook some more." She banged the door. I don't know, like George Carlin's dub. To be honest, I did not like how he goes like, "You miserable engine." I mean, I get why he said that because obviously it's a woman voice. So yeah, but
Yeah.
honestly, Ringo kind of did really good with this. If you're watching the UK version, I prefer the UK version to be honest. If you're watching this episode,
Yeah.
basically, like she banged the door, and of course, more of the debris of the house literally just collapsed on Thomas, and of course, workmen arrived to help Thomas, support beams
Yeah.
to steady the house. And then Donald and Douglas came out of nowhere and they pulled Thomas out. And of course, his buffer beam, the front, was obviously damaged in the crash. So that's what ended up happening. And of
That's
course,
kind
Thomas was, of course, the Fat Controller was upset with Thomas, basically. He was upset
Yeah.
with him because of what
Yeah,
he did.
but honesty, to be honest though, and sorry for cutting you off, by the way.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. Go ahead.
But the thing is it really his fault though? Because honesty, the blame should have been on the cleaner. Honesty.
Well, that's true because he was a careless cleaner. Obviously, he
Yeah,
meddled
and then
with
another thing too, also, is that why the homes were built near the tracks. Like,
basically.
I get
I
that's the
I
other thing.
noticed
Like,
that
why they were
too.
built nearby.
I think it's because like their houses for station masters, so I think that's why. Because like since like station masters have like 24-hour jobs, I think like the Northwestern Railway decided that they should build houses that are along the tracks so they can like so they can sleep and relax, and then by the morning or by night, depending on their shifts, they can come back to the station just like that
Yeah.
with no car.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
my theory. That's
Yeah,
my
but
theory.
I'm just thinking like, oh, this will work. There's no problem. The next day later.
Boom, just crashed. Yeah. So basically, the Fat Controller is upset with Thomas about what he did, and of course tells him that a diesel will take over his branch line. And of course, Thomas just says like, and of course, the Fat Controller always says, "There's more." He said, Yes, Thomas. Diesels always stayed in their sheds until they are wanted. Diesels never go up to breakfast in station master houses. I mean, that was also a good dialogue that he said. Not gonna lie, the dialogue was good and all. I mean, this was basically from the Railway Series book, so basically they used the dialogue from this episode, basically.
Yeah, and
So
then
Thomas
even
Comes to Breakfast is one of the most underrated episodes a lot of people like to talk about. So personally, I have to give it an A tier. It's like a good episode, but not my favorite. Like not my favorite. You know,
yeah, I think if I think it fits well.
fits well. Yeah, basically. Okay,
Yeah.
we have another episode called Daisy. Oh
Oh
yeah, this is
no.
where the new rail car
Yeah,
comes
the
in.
new Rail Diesel decided to be so lazy and stuff.
Yeah, it's so lazy. Yeah,
Like
Daisy is obviously
imagine
a new
if like
character. A lot
considering
of people don't
yeah.
like.
Yeah,
I'd
I mean
say like
imagine
Daisy's the underrated character, to be honest. She's like one of the most underrated characters of them all.
yeah, like if I
Originally, she was
ever
supposed to be like Boko, though. That's the thing. Originally, she was supposed to be like Boko from like the Railway series, basically, because that was her face back then in the Railway series. But in the model series, they decided that because they do that, they say they were going to plan on doing that, but because it looks like more of a boy character, they decided to put a lot of makeup and eyelashes around her, so to make
excuse
it
me.
look like she's a girl. And
Yeah,
that actually kind of worked. That actually kind of made sense why
it
they
does
did it.
actually work.
It fit. It actually did fit. It actually, not gonna lie, it actually made totally sense why they would never do this. So Daisy, of course, arrives at the railway. Fat Controller introduces them to Toby and Percy, and of course, like they decided to find a shed for Daisy to sleep on. But of course, she didn't like the sheds, and then one day she slept with nearby Annie and Clarabelle. I mean, Annie and Clarabelle and Henrietta, who were sleeping in the shunting shed. And of course, like she's
I
like,
think
"This is
it's
good, but whatever is that rubbish?" The rubbish he
um
was talking about was Annie,
oh
Clarabelle, and Henrietta. And of
I
course, like they obviously did not like that at all. And of course, Toby
yeah,
and Percy
I
just
would
like
have
the
yeah, if I was an engine down there and whoever told me that, I would just leave and just be frustrated all day. Like
yeah,
seriously,
and
like that is like rude to say
really
that to
rude,
someone.
really rude, really
Like
really
I
rude.
am so glad. Like to be honest, if whoever does that, I'll be like, yeah, go sleep somewhere else. I mean
Okay, so of course
seriously.
one day Daisy wakes up. Okay, anyway, so Daisy wakes up one day, and of course Toby pushes a milk tanker to see if she can pull, but it did not work. She couldn't pull, and obviously she jammed her one of those springs. Like she's highly sprung, in other words.
I
And
think she
because
did
of
that on
that, like
purpose.
everyone was like saying, like one of the station masters like saying, I cannot understand why the fat controller was sent such a feeble, and like like basically like stop arguing, we already late. So of course they uncoupled Daisy, and they
You mean
uncoupled the
the
milk
tanker?
tanker to Daisy. Yeah, the passengers were like saying like, why did the fat controller brought this engine, to the railway, obviously. And of course, like basically like, and of course like everyone starts arguing about it, and of course Daisy, like the driver uncouples Daisy from the milk tanker, and Daisy goes away. Basically, there was no moral to this episode. Basically, it's just a new character that just shows around what they're doing. Basically, there's no
Yeah,
moral. No,
basically being lazy.
basically, yeah, there was no moral about it. But I mean,
Yeah.
it did introduce a new character. There's some good stuff. They introduced a new character. That's fine. But like, it didn't make sense. So honestly, I had to give this to. Basically, I'm gonna put this in B tier. Honestly, it's good, but not my favorite. Favorite, like not my favorite episode.
Yeah.
I mean, the character is good. I like the character, yes, but yeah, it just didn't make sense. Did not make sense. Another episode, Percy's predicament. Oh yeah, that's the classic.
Oh yeah, I love
Percy and
this
Toby
one.
agree to switch jobs after Daisy refuses to take the milk again, which ends up putting the engines in an awkward predicament. And it actually did. Basically, Percy, of course, switches jobs because Toby and Percy decided to why not switch jobs. And of course, Percy takes the stone trucks to the harbor, but then of course it starts going bad. The trucks start pushing at Percy, and of course Percy ends up in a violent crash, basically hitting a brake van, and of course just demolishing a brake van, just like that, just demolished it like really fast.
Yeah. Hopefully
And of
no one
course,
was in there.
Toby and Daisy arrive to help. And of course, the Fat Controller blames all this on Percy because it was his fault that he accidentally up crashing. And of course, like basically, he tells them that like it's not his really fault, and he should be careful with trucks next time. And of course, even the Fat Controller was even upset with Daisy too because she was being lazy as always,
Yeah,
and
but the
because of
thing is,
that,
why? Oh, sorry.
he
But the thing
decides
is,
to give him a second chance, and he decides to give her a second chance, and basically,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I mean that's fine, you know, like his engines are not lazy, like he said.
yeah. But the thing
Basically,
is, why did he didn't snap at Daisy for the first time? Like back,
basically
like
he didn't know what was happening until like Percy's crash. This is where like Percy's crash was like something that will get his attention, basically.
yeah. But I just, oh my
I know,
god.
I know. It didn't make sense to me either as a kid. Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. So basically, Percy's predicament, of course, and also interesting. Thomas is back from the works, and he's also there too. He arrives at the works and picks up Annie and Clarabelle. Well, of course, Toby and Daisy help Percy and take him to the works.
I
Basically,
thought it
Thomas
was just
returned in that
Toby.
episode. He returned, yeah.
Hold on for a minute. I thought Toby was the one because I didn't see Daisy helped at all.
Well,
Like,
Daisy was there in the back. She was in the background, actually. She was in the
oh
background.
really? I didn't see her.
Yeah, yeah, she was in the background. You can't hardly see her, but she was in the background actually. If you rewatch
Oh,
the episode, she's right there in the
hmm.
background.
I gotta rewatch stuff. It's been a
Yeah, you
while.
gotta rewatch it. Yeah. Okay, so
but
Percy Predicament. Honestly, S tier because of one reason. S tier is because the crash scene. The crash was actually kind of cool and all, and also like how like Percy and Toby switched jobs after this, and it's actually a good episode. I'm not gonna lie, very
hold,
good, very
on,
decent
hold on
episode.
for a minute. I just realized something.
What is it?
How maybe one day someone whoever does a video should play like Freebird in the background while Percy is a runaway going downhill.
Oh my god. Those gonna get copyrighted. They're gonna get copyrighted.
I know, I know, but it's funny though.
I know, I know, I know. Okay, we also have another episode. That's also my favorite, the Diseasel. Basically, the
Oh yeah,
Diseasel.
that one's my favorite
That was
too.
for an introduction of the new saddle tank engines, Bill and Ben. Obviously, the twins.
Yeah,
Obviously,
also
they
known
were
as the
from
Double Trouble.
yeah. Obviously, basically, Bill and Ben, they were introducing this character in this, and of course, one day they were taking to the harbor the stones, but of course, they disappear.
Why did the station master didn't stop the guy who stole them?
The engine has stalled them. I don't know because it was in the harbor though. Think about it. The harbor is very busy. Think about it. It's a harbor. Think about it. It's a harbor. It's
I'm just
very
joking around.
busy. It's very busy, dude.
Yeah, I know. I'm just joking around for
I know,
fun.
I know, I know. It's fine. Don't worry. So of course, Bill and Ben arrived to see that the trucks were disappear, and their drivers found a patch of oil that was left behind, and they know it's a diesel, obviously. And of course, like they all say, like, "Wait, a diesel or a diesel?" They're confused, and like they didn't know what to do, so they decided that they were gonna rescue the trucks. And of course, they were scared, like saying, "But the diesel will magically away us like he did with the freight cars. He won't magic us, his driver. We'll like likely magic him." Listen, he doesn't know you're twins. So we're taking your numbers, your names and numbers. I didn't like how that also the narrator said like they take away their numbers and their name tags. In the model series, they didn't have any numbers for Bill
Yeah,
and
that's
Ben.
a good point. Why?
Like the
Why
name
did the?
tags were replaced, yes, but the numbers were still there. The numbers were
Yeah,
still there. I didn't understand that as a kid, honestly. And then of
I
course
I
they
don't.
decided to go to find the Dizizo, and of course we get a funny sequence actually, and I'm gonna play this from the instrumental that I found of let me see oh yeah the Zizo theme song, actually the Zizo song from Thomas, actually I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, this episode was kind of funny, and like I just like how like it all starts off like how like like when like Ben arrives to the Diesel, and he's like saying like the Diesel wakes up and he's like saying, "Do you mind?" And he's like saying, "Yes, I do. I want my trucks back. These are mine. Go away." And I just like saying,
Oh,
"You're a big bully.
you're
You'll see."
you're a big
He's
old
like,
you're a big old.
I know
I forgot my
exactly.
I forgot my narration.
Like, I don't know why. Like it was just so funny. I'm not gonna lie. It was
It is so
very
funny,
very
actually. Like
funny.
you're a big big bully. You see.
Yeah, and of course this is where they actually did the theme, and I'm not gonna lie, the theme of how they did it is so, what's the word? did so good. I'm not
Incredible.
kidding. They're good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Oh
play the clip
man.
right now, actually.
All right. Okay, let's do it. I am so glad to
All
listen
right,
to
let's
it
do
again.
this. Let's do this.
Here we go.
Yeah, here's the theme. Also the theme.
You're a big
So you're
meat bully.
bully.
We will pay you
Sorry.
back.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, there's a theme.
Oh, you truck stealer.
Oh my god, because my computer crashed.
Oh my god.
Yo, I actually remember this scene. It's kind of funny.
Me too.
Really moment right there. Basically, they just play Pop Goes the Weasel. Basically, it was kind of like that. They were playing Pop Goes the Weasel, and of course, like Vocal like starts, and of course we didn't know the engine's Diesel. The Diesel's obviously his eyes, like saying, "Stop! You're making me giddy." And he's like saying, "Are there two of
And
you?"
then and then and
And
then
he's
he's
like,
like,
"Yeah,
"Are
we're
there two of
twins."
you?" He's like,
Yes.
"Yes, we're
Yeah, we're
twins.
twins.
I might
I
have
might
known
have
it."
known it. And of course, Edward comes in. Edward comes in, and he's like saying, "Bill and Ben, what are you playing here? We're not
We're not
playing.
playing, protested Bill. We're trying to rescue our
We're our
trucks.
trucks."
This Diesel decided to steal it from us. I don't know how it
Even
sounds like that, but
even you let the even though you let us steal our trucks, but this Diesel came in and took it. There's no cause to be rude," said Edward severely. "This engine is a Metropolitan Vickers Diesel Electric Type 2. Basically, that's actually based off his engine. Actually, that's based off his engine. Actually,
like the actual engine, like the
and of course,
actual
his
like.
name is obviously Boko. Obviously, his name is Boko. Oh, hold on a second.
Oh my gosh, man! I wish I would have just joined more on these trips. I think I'm gonna do something for a minute. Let's see. What we gotta do?
Oh, sorry about that. My phone went off. My bad. Okay. So
Is
basically,
it? Is it?
the
Is it?
episode was really funny. I'm not gonna lie. So, how would I rate this episode? The
You better give
Diesel.
it an S, honesty.
Look at S tier. Yes, S tier. I don't care. Literally, it's a funny episode. You can't go wrong with the whole series. You can't go wrong with this episode. This episode is so good. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Basically, it shows three characters. Actually, three characters if you count Bill and Ben. You know, three characters: Boko and Bill and Ben, and that's it. Basically. So, of course, we have Wrong Road. Okay, I remember Wrong Road. It's one of the most underrated episodes of the whole series. So basically, Thomas's branch line and Edward's branch line are both weak and old, and that some of their bridges and tunnels are not that strong as others on the main line. And the Fat Controller doesn't allow mainline engines like Gordon to run on them. And of course, like Gordon is complaining about the Fat Controller making his mix up. And of course, he's like saying this to Edward, saying like letting branch line diesels pull mainline trains is disgrace. Never mind, Gordon. I'm sure Boca will let you pull his freight cars. And of course, Gordon didn't like that. He's like saying, "I won't pull Boco's dirty trucks. I won't run on branch lines." And like basically, they just didn't want that. Basically, he just didn't like to run on the branch line, obviously. And of course, one night, as they were pulling the midnight trains, obviously there was an issue. A lady with a green floppy big hat, a green floppy big hat, was saying goodbye to her friend, and because she was like, and because she had a big hat that looked like green, the guard from behind the train thought that it was a green flag, and of
Wait, I
course,
thought.
yeah, the guard thought that the green floppy hat that the woman had was basically a green flag. Like he thought that the guard was waving a green flag, but Gordon started actually, leaving luggage, passengers, and everyone behind. Basically,
So
everyone was
like the
surprised.
train. So like the train was never full anyway.
It was not full. It was not full at all. It was barely getting passengers, barely.
Oh my
And because of
god!
that, and because of the mistake that
I'm too
that the guard did, the mistake that the fireman did, it was actually the fireman that actually noticed the green floppy hat. So basically,
Yeah,
he
I was
didn't
just
know.
gonna say, like, I think that's the fireman who did it.
Yeah,
I
it was
never
the
see the
fireman.
guard did it.
Yeah, the fireman did, but he thought the guard was waving a green flag. He thought he was waving a flag. That's what he thought. That the guard was waving the green flag, and he's like, "Oh, okay, we gotta go. We got the passengers in. Let's go." And basically, that did not happen.
And
And
then
of course,
highball out of
Gordon
there,
came back.
leaving everyone behind.
Yeah, and Gordon came back suddenly, but of course, by the time he arrived, Edward was already late for his train. So basically, he set off first. But however, though, there was one issue though. He instead of sending Edward to the branch line, he sent him to the main line. The signalman didn't know what happened, and because of that, he let Edward go through the main line, which of course, basically, it wasn't a bad thing. But Gordon, however, also had to go to the branch line, and of course, stayed in the siding in the outside the station, basically. And of course, Bill and Ben arrived, and of course, they start teasing Gordon that he's not Gordon, because that's not Gordon. He doesn't like branch lines, and of course, he says that's a pile of old iron, which means we have to take it to the scrapyard. No, Bill, this was his facade. We'll take it to the harbor and dump it in the sea. And basically, Gordon's like saying, "I am Gordon. Stop, stop!" And basically, Boko arrived, and of course, like he's like saying, "Boko, my dear engine, save me!" And of course, Boko like sized up the situation and threatened to take away the trucks for Bill and Ben. And basically, Gordon after the whole thing, he kind of respected Boko now. But even though he doesn't know that the twins were just teasing him, basically, they weren't going to do that. Episode did not make sense if you ask me. That makes sense to me. And that makes sense. Hello, welcome. So this
Hello.
episode was kind of okay and such.
All right, back. Sorry.
That's fine. Okay, so basically, like Bill and Ben were just teasing Gordon, but of course Gordon thinks that Boko saved them, even though in reality, they wasn't to be saved really. So basically, this episode was good enough for one thing. It wasn't entirely Gordon's fault, to be honest. It was not Gordon's fault. It was the guard. It was the fireman that made a mistake, and I mean that shows that people can make mistakes even if they're professional. It actually shows a good moral. So Wrong Road, I have to give it. You know what? I'll give it an A tier. It's a good episode. It was
Yeah,
a
I totally agree.
episode. It is a
good
good episode.
It's
We
like a
give
good
to
episode
that.
that shows between
It is
Edward
a good
and
episode
Gordon.
of Thomas and Friends episode. And
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with that. Gordon and forgot what his name.
Edward.
I'm sorry
Edward.
because Edward. Yeah. Thank you for helping me that.
That's fine. Anyways, we have this is my other favorite and my personal favorite episode, Edward's Exploit. Oh yes,
Edward's
I remember.
exploit.
Yes,
Oh,
Edward,
this is like the
a good
classic,
character arc.
classic of
Yes,
the
classic of
of
Unlucky
the
Tug.
of
If
the
you watch
episode of
Unlucky
the
Tug's
series.
retrospective of Edward, you would have understand why this episode's your favorite. And I watched it myself. Basically, Edward's Exploit was just about Edward taking the visitors to the island one day, and of course he tries to send them home, but of course the weather changed. It was raining, pelting him. Basically, he couldn't do anything, and he tried his best. His wheels started slipping because of the rain, and of course, what ended up happening was one of his crank pins ended up breaking, and because of this, it ends up causing him to be stranded in the middle of nowhere, with all the passengers still there.
The storm causes confusion and delay.
Basically, yeah. So Edwards, so of course, and this is a bad situation though. In the original railway series, actually, I think I do have a picture of how Edwards' exploit should have been.
The book
According to
version.
According to some people, according to some people that they say Edward's exploit was supposed to be way different. Like the
Yeah,
way
that
that
maybe it could, is originally going to be look dark or something.
yeah, it was supposed to be dark and all, yes, but there was also one thing that a lot of people forgot about it when you're looking up.
Well, I
about
think they changed it because it was themed
they had to
to
change the
dark
way that they
for
had to do
kids.
the crash scene, like the way they had to do Edward's exploit. I mean, you can see it right here. This was basically his original crash from the Railway series. You can see right here.
Oh my
Zoom in.
goodness, that's so dark.
Like
I feel
this
bad for
was supposed to be
Edward.
That
like
is
He looks
that.
old.
now that's a
He
lot
kind
of
of looks
That
old.
damage.
this was supposed to be from the show. Actually, they were originally going to try doing this idea, but they couldn't do it
But
because of
they
one
didn't
reason:
do it because it's too
budget.
scary.
Budget. No budget. They were on a
Yeah,
budget.
because of budget.
Yeah, and not to
Because
mention
Budget
of
and
the
they
because
had to.
prices.
they couldn't do the crash scene obviously. So I guess that explains why they couldn't. So and think
I think
about
they
this.
cut
This
it
situation is
because
bad.
of back
Edward
concern.
has no driving wheels. He only has one driving wheel working, but the other one is damaged. So basically, he's in the
He
middle of
has to go to
nowhere
repairs or
with
something.
passengers. With passengers, yes, and he's stranded. He's stranded. That's all I can say. He's stranded in the middle of nowhere. But
With no
and
food or
usually
water.
whenever an engine is stranded, they just give up and just wait for an engine to come to help them. Nope. Edward does not do that. You know what he does? He
He just
pulls.
helps.
He pulls away. He
He
pulls
pulls.
away.
He pulls.
Just like
He accepted the
just like a
challenge.
Even though
useful
it wasn't
engine.
easy, he still showed of never back down and he never gave up. Oh my god, why am I quoting that from Nick?
It's like Nick K 30.
Why
It's
am I
like Nick K
Nick K
30.
Maybe because you probably had to do that.
That's a Nick K 30
Obviously,
reference.
Bro got the motivation of Nick K30 and he's like, never back down, never give up.
You're
Did he
supposed to say,
really
Edward
actually said
never
that?
gives up. He needs to
had
become
to, I
a
had
really useful engine.
Yeah, obviously. And honestly, Edward, he made it through. Everyone made it through. Everyone was clapping for him and the coaches.
Like a
Everyone
really
was just,
useful
happy.
engine.
Everyone was happy. Everyone was happy. Edward was taking the passengers home. Even though he was late, like basically the Fat Controller was waiting for him. And of course, you know, he was pointing at the clock, but of course the passengers moved them away and they were cheering and they were thanking Edward's crew, you know, his driver and fireman for doing their work. And of course, like Edward comes back to the shed one day when he was repaired, and of course Gordon and James respected him. They respected him, like saying like they respected him, they apologized, and so on. So basically,
Yeah,
old
they,
Iron
they,
Edward
they
is an
apologize
old
for teasing him and
Yeah.
calling him old.
And honestly, look at this. Look at this guy. He did not stop at all. He
He
showed
doesn't
determination.
care.
He showed determination. That's all I can say. Edward's exploit, you already know where it's gonna be at. S tier.
Yeah,
S tier is the best
Honestly,
version
guys,
that
this
you
is
like.
Edward's character arc in the series. This is Edward's series. This is Edward's branch line.
Yeah,
actually.
he
Season
should be
2
getting
was-
his own spin-off series on himself.
But little did they know that in some other seasons later, Edward's character arc would change a bit later on in the
Yeah,
series.
because like in the CGI version and the god awful reboot version.
CGI, and no CGI. They kind of did a little bit good for him, but season 6 was the one that actually changed a lot after, you know. Basically, this was after season 6 was after Magic Railroad, basically. So after Magic Railroad, that was it. Something changed in the series. New writers came. They didn't know the show, and decided to
Edward
write
just moved to a different branch line.
Yeah, he moved into a different branch line after. He has the Wellsworth branch line, but he goes to Brandon Docks actually.
Yeah, to with Salty.
Salty and them. Well, Salty doesn't come until season 6, so Salty was not a thing at the time. So if you're in this period,
Yeah, he wasn't there until
Season
much
6.
seasons later.
Season 6. Yeah, he was in season 6 actually. Not gonna lie. Okay, we have another favorite episode, Ghost Train.
Yeah, it's like the Halloween episode.
Yes, the Halloween episode. We cannot go wrong with the theme, guys. We cannot go wrong with the theme. The theme.
Yeah, I'm not going wrong with it at all.
is so
Yeah,
I don't know.
we see Sir Top of Hat with the wizard. That was kind of cool, but not actually funny.
Yeah, but like here's an episode though that's really, really funny though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, originally he's gonna have a devil version, but they changed
Yeah,
it to
because
a
they-
wizard because of the religious. Oh my gosh, what happened?
Yeah, they're like saying that. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. This episode, I have some great memories of this episode. Ghost Train, obviously, you can't go wrong with the theme. I'm gonna play a theme about it, and you're not gonna lie. This actually kind of scared me when I was a kid. No joke.
Yeah, it's like the horror movie, but kid friendly.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, this is kind
You
of scary.
cannot go wrong
You
with this
cannot
theme.
go wrong. You cannot go wrong with this. This is the only British
And every
show
year,
that
on
can
the
make it more
day of the
scary.
accident, it runs again as a warning to others, plunging into the gap, shrieking like lost
Cinders and
souls.
ashes.
Percy, what are you talking about? The ghost train. Driver saw it last night. Where? Asked Thomas and Toby. He didn't say. Oh, it makes my wheels wobble to think of it. Huh, said Thomas. You're just a silly little engine. I'm not scared. Basically, just like, okay, so basically, Percy tells a ghost story to Thomas and Toby, basically. And of course, they didn't believe him. And his driver didn't believe him either because honestly, it was just a ghost on television.
He thinks he's faking it.
Yeah, obviously they think he's faking it and so on. And one night when he was traveling home, he ends up crashing into a cart of lime that was laid on the tracks for some unknown reason. People speculate that it
It
was
was
Terrence that
so.
was pulling
It was
pulling
Terrence.
the pulling
It
the
could be
train. Yeah,
Terrence.
yeah. People say that was actually him. I actually kind of believe that theory. So
So
basically, his
Thomas
cart
had
broke.
blame Percy for this.
Yes. He didn't blame him though, because Percy didn't see it until the last second, and of course he crashes into the lime and ends up covering in white dust all over around him from
And
bunker
Like
to
and the
all of the
car
lemon
basically
in there.
exploded.
and he looks like a ghost. And he looks like a ghost. He looks
It's
like
unlike Thomas, where he pours on a flower to fool
yeah,
other engines. Percy doing this some like when he was poured on the lemon. He looks turned into like a ghost.
yeah. Okay, so of course after the accident, Toby was there, and of course the signalman told him, like the driver told the signalman what happened, and of course he said like we need to clean Percy because he looks like a ghost, and of course Percy decides that why don't we do wait before we clean me, why don't we do a trick on Thomas instead, and of course Toby
It's like
helped
he's getting revenge.
getting revenge exactly, and then of course he did get his revenge, basically in the ghost
I'm
train.
gonna get you, Thomas,
No,
for
he didn't say it
teasing
like
me.
that though. He's like, I'm gonna play one clip about the scene of what happened in the UK version because I do not like George Carlin's
The
thing.
US version is not very good, but it's actually been good version. But the UK was good when you used Ringo Starr.
Yeah, not gonna lie. Okay, I'm gonna play the clip. I'm gonna play the clip. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
I
Let
think
me just.
Ringo Starr was the UK version and George Carlin was in the US
All right, all
version.
right, all right. Let's do this. You can't go wrong with the fog, baby.
Oh no. Oh no, Percy.
Let me in! Let me in! Wailed Percy.
Never.
No, not by the smoke of my chimney, chim chim. I'll chuff and I'll puff and I'll break your door in.
Oh my god.
Oh dear,
Woo!
exclaimed Thomas. It's getting late. Oh, I'd no idea. Oh, I must find Annie and Clarabelle.
Oh my god.
I must
He was basically
find Annie and
scared. He was
Clarabelle.
basically scared at this point. You cannot deny.
He
He was
just like,
scared.
nope, I'm out of here. I'm going to see Annie and Clarabelle.
Nope, I'm out. He's like, I'm out. I'm done.
I'm
And of
good.
course,
I'm out
like,
of here. Bye.
Like,
so, of
I'm
course, like,
leaving. I'm going to see
Yeah.
Annie and Clarabelle just
yeah, he's like
because of
saying, I'm
this,
gonna go see
because
Annie
of
and Clarabelle.
Percy's
And then,
behavior.
And then Toby was like saying, "Where have you been?" And he's like saying, "Oh well, you know, I know you're sad about Percy, but and I didn't want to intrude. I slept in a freight shed, and of course Percy's whistle sounds any echo. You know, obviously he's like saying, "Oh, sorry, I gotta go," and then he just goes away, basically. Of course,
Like, he's just
Percy,
pretending that it doesn't happen.
yeah, basically, and so basically Thomas got scared. Honestly, he got scared. Obviously, this you cannot go wrong with the way they did this episode. They did it with a lot of fog, like a lot of fog in a night. That is, I gotta get credit to them. They actually did this.
Yeah,
in
they
like the
used a fog effect
They did so
on
good.
this.
They did good. You have to give them credit. They did very good. They did a hell of a job.
They did a good job on doing
So
the
Ghost
model
Train,
version of it.
S tier.
Esther was the greatest
Yeah.
Halloween series
Yeah, Ghost
special ever.
Ghost
In the
Train, yeah, it
Thomas
was
and
the
franchise.
first. It was the first Halloween, actually, the first Halloween, I would say.
Yeah,
We
they
have
did come out
we
in
have another
October
part
to
two. We
celebrate
have another part
Halloween.
two we have another part two of Ghost Train, and it's called Woolly Bear. I actually
It's
don't
the
remember
sequel. It's a sequel to
sequel,
Ghost Train.
basically. So of course, in the summertime, it's obviously the summertime in the island of Sodor. Basically, there's a new haze, and Percy collects haze all the time, and of course, Toby takes them to the market where they be, be used up as wood, basically. And of course, Percy of course whistles to Thomas, like saying, I'm a ghost and such, and he's like, say, and of course Thomas teases Percy about it, and of course here comes the famous line, "A green caterpillar with red stripes. You crawl like one too." Who's been late every afternoon this week? And honestly, it's like this is how it goes. Thomas and Percy always fight each other one day. Percy takes the truck to the harbor, and of course, there was more trouble than just that.
Yeah,
However,
it's
of
more
course,
troublesome subs, and it's hard work to do an engine to work on.
basically it was just more. What's it called? Basically, things started going wrong in the harbor one day. A crate of Tracos falls down on Percy and ends up covering him in sticky liquid, and because of that, he can't be washed. And of course he heads back home. He tries heading back home, but however, he ends up getting caught in a sandstorm. I would say, like in a sand, in a dust, a wind, like a gust of wind was blowing him, and lots of haze were going around him, and he was stuck, and all the haze was starting to come towards him, and because of that, he couldn't move at all. And of course, he arrived with Thomas looking like a woolly bear,
He
basically.
turned into a bear.
Or
He's like a wild bear.
yeah, exactly.
Oh no, it's Bigfoot.
No, no, not Bigfoot. It's no, but
Percy
like
thought it
after,
was a Bigfoot,
but like after though,
engine
but, like
Bigfoot.
after, and of course, like Percy's driver did show him what he looks like, and he's like he laughed at himself and like saying, "Please clean me," and then like, but no, it was too late though. Thomas told Toby everything, and of course they start teasing him about it. And honestly, when it comes with Thomas and Percy in this dynamic, no one wins. No one wins. Honestly, no one wins the game.
Yeah,
They
they
always
lose.
end up losing, basically. Basically, I just like those two dynamic characters. They actually had really fun when they were trying to do this. So basically, no one wins. No one wins. No one wins
It's
in this
like a
fight.
tie or nothing.
Like a tie, maybe a tie, because basically they end up
Just
getting teased. Thomas ends up getting teased by being afraid of a ghost, and Percy ends up getting teased by looking like a woolly bear. So
Sorry about
yeah,
that. I didn't mean to put a face on it.
that's fine. So woolly bear, ooh, I have to go with A tier. It's okay episode to be honest. It shows Thomas and Percy's
Yeah,
dynamics. It's
it's like the part one was better, but the sequel kind
yeah,
of fine for that.
kind of fine too. Yeah, it's kind of fine. Oh, we have one more episode, guys. Then we're
It's
gonna
the
call it
last
live.
one.
Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree. This was not a Railway Series book.
This is like a Christmas special episode.
This was a Christopher Audrey book, actually. It's Christopher's book, actually. Thomas and the Missing Christmas Tree was basically like this. So Christmas is around here and now in the Sodor, and of course the engines are getting ready for the big holiday. And of course Thomas is sent to get up a Christmas tree, but ends up getting covered in snow. And Donald and Douglas save him, and then of course the party begins, and that's it. Basically, Christmas is right there. The lights show up, and yeah, basically everyone's wearing Christmas hats and Santa hats. I would say it's kind of
Like
cool.
a short, it's like a short version of it, but much Christmas-fied of Thomas.
Yeah, it was a Christmas. There's no question about this episode. It was a Christmas episode. If one of you guys even knows about this episode, then I'm not gonna lie, you guys. You have to
This
know
is
this
not the
episode.
first time they do that.
It's a
The
Christmas.
CGI version they did the Scrooge version for
Yeah,
Diesel.
yeah, they've done it before. The Scrooge, like Scrooge McDuck from the Christmas Carol. Yeah, basically.
No,
Yeah.
it's not Scrooge
Anyways,
McDuck.
so
It's
Thomas
just
and the
Scrooge.
Christmas Tree. Honestly, if you don't like this episode, I'm gonna tell you, you're honestly just thinking about something else. But this is definitely an S tier. S tier.
Yeah,
It's a
you were
good
thinking
Christmas
something.
episode.
If you just
It's a
don't like it,
Christmas
just
episode.
That's
don't
good.
hate Thomas.
It's a Christmas episode. So okay, so here's a tier list. This is all the tier lists I have that are honestly my
Oh
favorite.
man, that was quick.
This is all the tier list.
This is all,
all
the
the tier list of
episodes.
every
all the
episode.
episodes of season 2.
We should.
I might do season 3 in another live stream, but who
Oh,
knows?
you
So
know
we're
what?
gonna
Yeah,
skip
How
who
about
knows?
this.
We're just
how about
continuing
we-
the new live streams of
So I'm gonna
Thomas and Friends
Yeah.
season 3. We finished up
Yep.
with season 1 and season 2.
So
Now we're
yeah,
getting to
season 3
3.
we might do it later
Wow.
because, like, honestly, for me, I'm gonna have to do some stuff because
They just restored the entire Thomas and Friends
I have another
episode.
idea.
Just idea.
okay, what's it?
What is
Well, okay. So so how about we do one on one of the glitches TV shows, the Murder Drones.
Yeah, what about it?
What
We should
about
do a
it?
tier list on the
Oh,
characters.
it's your list of the episodes. Oh, okay, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Episodes or the characters?
The
Whatever
episodes.
works.
Episodes.
Okay,
I prefer doing the
definitely.
episodes.
We should do it. We
Definitely.
should do it another time though.
Yeah, we should. Because honestly, for me, I already it's already been an hour and 30 minutes, dude.
I haven't done the
Yeah.
tier list before.
I could probably do
You
one
can
in
do
my
a
old
tier
channel,
list. It's in a
too.
link. It's in a link. You could just search it up and right there.
Yeah, I could do like my tier list
Yeah, you
about
can.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could
So
do like
basically,
a
if you
Thomas
guys
and Friends
enjoy
or
my
other
live stream, I'll
animation.
see you guys later. Also give credit
All
to if you guys want to see the links of the videos that we used during this tier listing that we've done. I'll send you guys the link to it in the description below if you guys want to see it. If you guys are interested about it, I would also send the
Yeah,
video
well-
to Amtrak Guy 365 because he can tell you about why he likes Thomas of the Runaway scenes, and that's why.
Yeah, he did a good job on that video. I'm
They
really
did a good
impressed.
job
Yeah, he
of
did. I saw the
replicating
video
about
too.
the
He
story
did
of Thomas.
really did good.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm gonna call the live stream off, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.
All right.
And
Well, see
Bye
you later,
bye.
guys.
See you later in season 3.
see you
That's
later,
all,
guys.
folks.
Yeah.
Don't